this evening, I'm going to share with you lots of practical things that are for golfers of all levels of ability. We have had fantastic feedback following Sam and Chris's presentations, and it's become apparent golfers of all abilities have got something out of that. But for tonight, whether you are a scratch single-figure handicap golfer, or if you just started playing this year, or even if you've not started playing properly yet, I'm confident that I'm going to share with you this evening some stuff that's going to be gold dust for you going forward into your journey playing this most wonderful sport of golf. First of all, I want to give you a little bit of background as to why the mental side of the game, or inner side of the game, is a part that I am so passionate about sharing with you. So let's go back in time. Now, I started playing golf as a junior at Scarborough Northcliffe Golf Club. And then in 1997, I was lucky enough to land the assistant pros job at the amazing golf course, the world famous Ganton, which is just outside Scarborough, famous for being one of only a handful of courses to have hosted the Walker Cup, the Ryder Cup, and the Curtis Cup. It is a truly awesome place. If you are ever in Yorkshire and you get a chance to go and play it, please do. You will not regret it. So I had some wonderful times there as the assistant pro. So started there in 97. Now in 1998, I turned pro. And I didn't turn pro to teach golf. Like a lot of people in my position, I turned pro because I fancied myself as a tournament golfer. I wanted to play on tour. I wanted to brush shoulders with the likes of Tiger Woods and co. on the main tour, playing in the majors. But it wasn't to be. Something was missing. And I didn't know at the time exactly what it was. But let me give you a little bit of an insight in that I would be on the practice ground at Ganton and I'm hitting it brilliantly. Gary Brown, great coach. He was my boss and he's still there now at Ganton. He's been there a long time now. He would come out on the range watching me hit balls and be like, Pete, you're hitting it brilliantly. You're swinging it great. Good scores are just around the corner. Be patient. So I'd go and play in a practice round before an event and shoot under par, play really well. But then come the day of the tournament, I would shoot 5 or 6 over par. Didn't know what was going on. Something was missing. My only thing I could do was go back to the practice ground, hit more balls, take more lessons, try and improve my technique. But this pattern kept repeating itself over and over again. And, you know, Einstein defied insanity of doing the same things today as you did yesterday and expecting a different result. Something had to change. But I didn't know at the time what it was. And after a couple of years of frustration of trying to make it as a player, I eventually turned my attentions to where I thought I would have more success. And I became a student of the game. I studied the golf swing. I wanted to learn everything about the technique so I could become the best teacher of the game that I'd fallen head over heels in love with. So that's what I did. I started learning all about the swing. And then quite a few years later, I've got qualified. I've built up a good teaching reputation. I get landed the head pros job at a beautiful little course in East Yorkshire called Hainsworth Park. So this was in 2006. And I want to explain to you now what my kind of eureka moment was. So I started there in February of 2006. And shortly after that, about a month or so later, the lady captain invited me to play in a ladies pro-am at a golf course called Ashby Decoy. Now, she offered to take me to the golf course. It was about a 2-hour drive, so she came and picked me up. And I put my clubs in the car, and I sit down in the passenger seat, put my belt on, and off we go. And she turns to me while she's driving and says, "Oh, Peter, we're so excited about playing with the pro today. We're going to see all these wonderful shots and see you shoot such a good score. We can't wait to see how golf's meant to be played." Now, I'm sat in the car thinking, I haven't played for about 2 months. I've been busy setting up this shop and I've only just got my clubs out today for the first time in ages. I've not even hit a ball. And here she is telling me how she's waiting for me to, or looking forward. And the girls that we're playing with can't wait to see how good a golf I'm going to play. Well, you can imagine what I started to feel. The nerves started to come on. We get to the golf course and we go into the clubhouse and we have a bacon roll and a coffee before we tee off. I could hardly eat it. I had to force it down. I felt so nervous. And then I couldn't get off the toilet, kept having to go. Anyway, I get on the first tee and my hands are shaking so badly. I put the tee peg in the ground. I can barely get the ball on the tee peg. Some of you may be with me on this. Do any of you feel like this sometimes on a golf course, or have you in the past? So I get the ball on the tee peg. I can feel my palms are getting sweaty. I put my hands on the club and I'm waggling the club, just trying to feel the club head, but I can't. And I can feel the tension building in my forearms, in my shoulders. My head starts to get hot. It feels like it's going to explode. And I start my backswing and I can barely move the club back. I can really remember the tension, the tightness as I get to the top of my swing. I come down and that's building. It's building before impact. And boom, I just managed to make contact on the ball. But it's an awful shot. I've nearly missed it. And this round didn't get much better from there on. I hit the odd good shot, but it was some terrible golf. In fact, I would go as far as to say this was the worst golf I've ever played. I've tried to, over the years, exorcise this from my mind, but you can tell by the way I'm speaking, those memories are still very real, very, raw in my mind, as is anything that we put a big emotional attachment to, be it good or bad. One of the things I do remember, and this is real pressure, everybody, is with 2 or 3 holes to go, I only had 1 ball left. Can you imagine that? You're playing the last 3 holes with just 1 golf ball left in not even in my bag. It was the one I was playing with. Had I lost that, I'd have had the humiliating, extremely embarrassing situation of having to turn to the lady playing partners that I was playing with and asked them if I could borrow a golf ball to finish the round. Anyway, we finished the round. We had to stay for a meal. It was the last thing I felt like doing, but I had to serve them as well. I didn't want to give them a bad experience. I'm not one to swear or throw clubs or anything like that. So I really focused on making sure that they had a good time. And I put on a smile, on a brave face. And on the way back in the car, the lady captain said, "Oh, well, we all have a bad day, Pete. She's lovely. Anne Wild's her name. She's a lovely lady. Was a great captain. And she was really supportive. But it didn't stop me feeling inside like I've let them down. I feel like I've let myself down." So as soon as I got home, I get out the car onto the practice ground. And I'm thinking, I've got to work on this. Something's seriously wrong here. So I've been driving the ball terribly. On the last few holes, I'd resorted to hitting an iron off the tee just to get it in play. So I'm standing there with my driver on the practice ground, no warm-up, 2 hours in a car, peg the ball up, boom. What do you think happened? Where did that ball go? You've probably guessed it. Straight down the middle. So I peg up another one, boom, straight down the middle. This happened about 6, 7, 8 times. In the end, I put the club back in my bag and thought, what was all that about? And it was at that moment that I realized something different was happening. It was not clearly just my technique that had evaporated in those 2 hours driving to the golf course, because when I come back, it seemed to have restored itself. So what on earth was going on? And this is where I'm going to start now my presentation. I'm going to bring up this. Hopefully this is going to work. Yes, that's looking good. So this is what I think, or what I know was going on. And if we can all read that, if you can't, I'll read it out for you. And I actually want you to write this down. If you've got a notepad, please write this down. It says performance is equal to potential minus interference. Performance is equal to potential minus interference. And when I talk about interference, let's be clear. I'm not talking about someone rattling the keys in your backswing or shouting something or firing a gun, letting off a firework just as you're swinging. None of those things. I'm talking about the interference that goes on in here, my or your self-talk. So moving on, let's get up the next slide. Hopefully this is going to work. There we go. So this is a graphic illustration of exactly what I am talking about. And I know this might be difficult for some of you to see depending on the screen that you're looking at, but on the left side there It is a chart of potential. And down the bottom, it says complete beginner. As it goes up the scale, it's got a hypothetical, like your level of golf. And then at the top, it says a top tour player or PGA Tour player. And the concept of this is just an illustration to show you that, you know, if you take lessons and you improve your technique, you improve your ability to play different shots, all you are doing is improving your potential. Your performance on any given day or in any given shot is your potential minus interference. And clearly that day at Ashby Decoy, I had an absolute stack of interference going on. So this is something we need to address. So let's bring up the next slide. So this man here, some of you who are old enough will know who this chap is. If you don't, his name is Roger Bannister. And in 1954, he achieved something, which was he ran a mile in under 4 minutes. Now, the significance of this for your golf and this presentation today is about self-limiting beliefs. Because a lot of the reason why we might not perform at such a level is because we have our own self-limiting beliefs. Now, what was interesting that happened with Roger Bannister, or rather after he'd done this, was in 1954, he runs a mile in under 4 minutes. Now, up until that point, scientists, people in the medical world had documented that it was impossible for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. It physically wasn't capable for them to do it. But Roger Bannister does it, and in the next 12 months, 32 other people completed a mile in under 4 minutes. So basically what Roger Bannister did, he broke through the glass ceiling and showed everybody what was possible. So those not necessarily self-limiting beliefs, but those beliefs were shattered, and it opened the floodgates for people to go on and achieve something that they maybe didn't think was possible. So we're talking about self-limiting beliefs, and the next bit I want to talk about is a thermometer. I'm going to relate this to golf in a minute, but I just want to take a second to look at that picture. Oh, to be on holiday again. That is me, my wife Emma, and son Billy in our place of great comfort, our favorite place in the world, which is the island of Madeira, on holiday. And we just got to keep positive and our fingers crossed that we will be allowed to go on holiday to such destinations again in hopefully the not too distant future. But the reason I show you this slide is because we could look at what happens when we as human beings get uncomfortable with the temperature of our surroundings. So let's say like today, I've been outside. Now it's about 2 degrees today. Now 2 degrees is not a comfortable temperature for us human beings to exist in unless we take measures to get ourselves more comfortable. So today on our walk out there in 2 degrees, we wrapped up in plenty of layers, put waterproofs on, a beanie hat on. I had mittens on as well to get me into that comfort zone, which is the green band that you see on this thermometer here. The opposite can happen as well, that we could get too hot. And when we get too hot, and if we're outside or in temperatures of plus 30 degrees, 40 degrees, etc., we will find ways, desperately find ways to cool ourselves down, because this is life preserving. So we will take some clothes off. We will go and get in a cold sea, or we will find a room with air conditioning. We will take whatever steps it takes to help us to get more comfortable, because our 10,000-year-old brain hasn't evolved a great deal, and you will find ways to keep you comfortable, whether that means, in this case, getting hotter or getting colder, to get you into that comfort band. But how does this apply to your golf? So let's have a look at the next slide. So what we've got here is an example. And those of you that are fairly new to the game, I apologize when I talk about handicaps and certain things like that. But this is pretty straightforward. It's the concept I want you to hold on to. So this example of a 10 handicap golfer, it's presumed he plays on a golf course of a par 71. So to play to his handicap, 10 over 71 would be 81 shots. So his comfort range in this hypothetical example is between 76 and 86. If he's shooting, or her is shooting between those scores, that's pretty comfortable. Yeah, on a good day, he's shot a bit under his handicap, a bad day, a little bit over. However, what happens when he gets really uncomfortable? When he's shooting looking like he's going to be in the hundreds, what you find is that the 10,000-year-old brain kicks in, throws in a couple of good holes, and we get back into that comfort zone. Not always, I know, but on the whole, this is what happens. But especially, and this is for those of you who maybe struggle to finish off a good score if you've started off well, this is really applicable to you. Because when you're playing and you're on a really, really good score, how many times do you find yourself collapsing, being a bit of a bottle job, as they would say? Yeah, I know a lot of you have fed back to me in the past that that is definitely the case. So I'm going to share with you now a real life example. When I was the pro at Hayneswood Park, the head pro there, occasionally we'd go out and play in the medals with some of the members. And this one day, my assistant, Matty Daly, good lad, he might be watching today, I don't know. His dad was a member at the club, and his dad played off 10 handicap, hence this example. So we'd gone out to play this medal one Saturday, and it was me, Matty Daly, his dad, Pat Daly, and another Matt called Matt Hammond. And we've set off playing. We get through 13 holes, and Matty Hammond shouts over to Pat, "Hey, Pat, you're on a right score today, mate. You're level par gross through 13 holes. You're only one shot behind Pete and only two shots behind Matty." Now, what do you think happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. Up to that point, Pat had been playing just the game. He wasn't thinking about his score. He was just enjoying playing with his son and with the pros, and he was just keeping up with us. Pat is a great golfer. He's a competitive man as well, and he was keeping up with us and just going toe-to-toe, enjoying just playing. We were kind of dragging him along. He was clinging onto our coattails. Just on that, as a side note, if any of you are wanting to improve your golf, I highly recommend playing with better players. Okay, be brave, just go for it. Okay, anyway, as an aside, we come back to the story. So he gets on the 14th tee. He's been informed he's level par. He's on the round of his life. What does he start thinking? He's now up this temperature scale, isn't he? He's heading to the low numbers. He's going above in the orange zone to 71. His mind's going forward thinking, couple of birdies as a par 5 coming up. I could shoot under par. I could shoot in the 60s. He's getting out of his comfort zone. I kid you not, on 14, he found a way to take a triple bogey. On 15, he found a way to make a double bogey. He gets on the 16th tee. Lovely little par 3 at Hayneswood Park. He lets out this big sigh. He goes, "That's more like it for me." He's now 5 over par. He's back into his comfort zone. His brain found a way of making him comfortable because it's life preserving it. I know it doesn't make a difference in golf, but our brain doesn't differentiate that. Not our subconscious brain that controls much of what you do. Now, the story finishes. I do remember, I think he finished par. He won the medal, got his handicap cut, but what could it have been? And what do we actually do about that? Here's a task for you. Next slide. So this is what I want you to do. And I know this could be difficult in the current climate because not all of you will have access at your clubs to physical scorecards, but you can make up a scorecard on a piece of paper at the course that you play at regularly. And as it says here, I want you to fill out the scorecards with lower scores than you normally shoot. So you're going to play under your handicap. Add it all up at the end and sign it as if it's a competitive, real round of golf. I want you to make the scores ambitious, but wholly achievable. For instance, you're not going to put a hole in one on every hole. Yeah, make them scores that you know you could do. So on holes where you know you can reach them in a certain number of shots. Make this really relative to your current level of ability, but push yourself, push your mind to go to a place of improvement beyond where you are currently. Keep looking back at these scorecards. Look at then when you start to get comfortable with this, and as your real life golf is improving, I want you to try and amend them, rewrite them out again, and keep going lower. We are looking here to try and create positive affirmations of what you are capable of. We are looking to try and attract this better golf into your game by making sure that you are focused on an outcome that you want, which brings me nicely on to the next slide. Hopefully, here we are. So we're going to focus on outcomes we want instead of playing don't golf. I promise you myself, and this is why I'm so passionate about this, because most of what I'm sharing with you, I have real life first-hand experience of me doing this myself. But in particular, since I started teaching hundreds, thousands of golfers over the 24 years nearly I've been a golf pro, that so many people stand over a shot and they're playing don't golf. All the things that they don't want to have happen. Let's show you. So the next task is this. I really want you to play full out with me here, folks. I know it's easy just to sit and sort of not pay full attention, but just play full out with me here. So promise me you'll play this following game with honesty. Okay, don't lie about it. Second thing I want you to do, I want you to do this now. I want you to close your eyes. Okay, just close your eyes and don't open them again until I give you the prompt. Now, whatever you do now, don't think of a pink elephant. Don't think of a pink elephant. You can open your eyes, folks. Come on, be honest with me. What just happened? I know what happened. There he is. You couldn't help it, could you? I said, don't think of a pink elephant. And what happened? You thought of a pink elephant. Let's look at this in a golfing context. So you're faced with this shot, and how many of you play golf? I know, as some of you will know, I do a tremendous amount of coaching to women, getting more women playing the game. I'm not going to go into this now, but there is still a big imbalance of male to female participation in golf, and especially club members. And we're doing it through a thing called Love.golf to help redress that balance. I am super confident, ultra passionate that if we can get golf 50-50 split, male to female, the whole game will be in a better state than it already is. But because of that, I also know there's a lot of them feedback to me about playing on Rose Hearty, which is just outside my house. And on the third hole, there's a ditch that runs across the fairway. And I can't tell you how many of those women that play there say to me, Pete, why is it every time I've got a shot over that ditch, my ball goes in the ditch? Well, it's because of this. Your mind does not have an image for, nor does it understand the command don't. As was just demonstrated when I asked you not, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. So in a golf context, it looks like that. Instead of you saying to yourself, don't go in the water, all your mind hears is go in the water. It plays a little video image of that ball being hit heavy. A big lump of mud comes up and then the ball going plop as it sinks in the water. How many of you even replace a new shiny Pro V1 with an old battered ball when you've got a shot over water, because you're already preempting what is going to happen? You're already preempting what you don't want to have happen. So we've got Brian Thompson's just put this up. I'll just bang this on the screen. It says, I find my best scores often come when not paying any attention to the scores, just feeling comfortable playing golf with no pressure. Hold on to that thought, Brian, because that's coming in a minute. We're going to just show you what that is all about. So let's this idea then of going in the water, your mind sees this image. And the thing is, what we think about, the images, the thoughts that we have, I'm sure you'll all agree, affect our state. It's like watching the news. If you watch the news on a regular basis, I promise you, you're not going to have a happy, fulfilled life unless you're really good at putting that to one side and compartmentalizing it, because it's full of negative, bad news, because bad news sells. And the newscasters are businesses at the end of the day. They want you to watch. So what happens is we become focused on all this negative stuff, and that creates negative outcomes. So we've got to be careful what we think about and what we think about, because that is what you're going to bring about. So the next thing, let's see, where are we in my list of things? So yeah, the problem with these thoughts, when your mind starts to visualize this shot going in the water, what does that do to your state? How do you feel? Yeah, you're not going to feel very good. You're probably going to be anxious. You're probably going to be tight. All these things don't contribute to helping you make the nice swing movement that would allow you to send the ball over the water and onto the green. Moving on. Another task for you. Let me just put this on here. Here we go. A little task for you on your notepads. What I'd like you to do now, down the left-hand side of your notepad, if you're faced with this 3-foot putt, some of you might actually know when this putt was, this image of this putt was taken and what it actually meant, but we'll come on to that in a minute. Down the left-hand side of your piece of paper, I want you to write down what is the most negative thought you could have when faced with a 3-foot putt. A simple, little easy peasy 3-foot putt. But what's the most negative thought you could have? If you want, put it in the comments. Just put negative thought equals whatever you think it is. Just going to give you 30 seconds or so just to do that while I have a drink. Water. The most negative off-the-wall thought you could possibly have when faced with a 3-foot putt. Now, when you've done that, on the right-hand side of your piece of paper, I want you to write down the most off-the-wall positive statement you could say to yourself before a 3-foot putt. We've got a negative one here from David Mitchell. Negative thought, it's going to lip out. It's going to lip out. Another one, a negative thought, doesn't reach the hole from Amanda Reed. Ian Taylor, he's going to miss. Yeah, these are great. Keep these coming, folks. Let's have some Rich Carsey as well. Negative thought equals short. Let's get some positive ones now on the board. So on the other side of your piece of paper, write down, of course, the really positive, the off the wall. What could not be more positive as a statement to yourself before you hit this 3-foot putt? Anybody going to type in an off-the-wall positive? There we go. It's going right in the middle from David. That's where it's going. Martin Moyer, I will sink this. Couldn't be any more positive, could it? He's saying he will sink it. Now, what I'm going to do is move on to the next slide. I'm conscious of time. In fact, I'm going to put this one up very quickly because this is great from William Wallace. Positive, slam it home off the back of the cup. He's thumping it in the hole, is William Wallace. So let's move on to the next slide, because what I want you to do underneath where you've written that down, if you have on your notes, I want you to write in nice big writing the word missions. Because what I'm about to share with you might come as a surprise, because most people, if you were to ask them which is better, the negative thought of I'm going to lip out, I'm going to miss it, versus the positive thought of I will hole it. Which is better? The surprising thing is that neither one of those is much better or worse than the other, and this is why. So you've written down the word missions. Sorry, I've just pressed that. Let me just let that thing disappear. If we separate the word missions into two, we get miss ions. Now, ions are charged particles that can be either positive or they can be negative. And what I want you to do, all of you with your golf, is to go on a mission by missing the ions. And as we've got up here on the next slide, we do that by entering into a neutral mindset. One where the thought would be, is it possible to hole this putt? Because by doing that, we are not saying we will. We are not saying we won't. And why wouldn't we want to say those things? Why wouldn't we want to say, I will hole this putt, or I won't hole this putt, or I'm going to miss? The reason why is that both the positive, the off-the-wall positive, and the negative are big fat lies. Because if we just go back to that picture, if I just go back a few slides, this is actually Doug Sanders, who in 1970 had this little tiddly-widdly 3-foot putt at St Andrews to win the Open Championship. And he missed it. He then went into a playoff with Jack Nicklaus. The next day, it was an 18-hole playoff where Jack Nicklaus won. And I do remember that Doug Sanders was asked in the following years, how often does he think about that putt? How often does it come back in his memory? And he said, he's quite humorous about it. He says, not that often, just about once every 2 to 4 minutes. Poor man, the poor man. So back to where we were then. So there we go. Positive and negative. Neither's more better than the other. They're both big fat lies. But the truth is it possible to hold this putt? We're approaching it from a neutral mindset. And you know what? That's not a bad way to approach most things in life. Being off the wall positive doesn't always serve us. An example would be when Billy, my son, was much younger. We lived in Bransburton in East Yorkshire, and his school was just a few hundred yards away from where we lived. And on the way home, he had to cross just one road. It was a very quiet road, but it was still had traffic on nevertheless. And we would repeatedly have to show him some negativity, have to explain to him the dangers. We had to put some fear into his mind so that he would stop just running in ahead of us, straight home, straight across the road without looking. Because when he did that, and we'd be, Billy, you can't do that. It's dangerous. You've got to stop. You've got to look to check there's no traffic coming. He would go, but I didn't get hit by a car. He was off the wall positive. This attitude is that comes with like the confidence. This almost immortal status that we have when we're younger. And we had to try and instill some fear. And we had a bit of a helping hand. And I apologize. This is a little bit of the sad moment for tonight's presentation, that we had a cat called Maxie. And Maxie, unfortunately, didn't stop, look and listen. And one day while Billy was young, she'd run across the road and she got cleaned up by a car. So there was a fine example for us. It wasn't great for the cat, but for us as a parent to Billy, it allowed us an easy way of showing him, look, this is what can happen if you approach life gung-ho positive and don't actually have some negativity. And this can apply to all sorts of things, investing, whatever it may be. If we're just ultra positive, it can often come with some bad negative outcomes. So in fact, my mum has just put a message here about don't golf. I'm going to bring this up because mum used to do this at school, i.e. walk in the corridor, please, and not don't run. It works every time. Name the behavior you want. Something connected to that. I do remember my dad saying, who's also a school teacher, that there was a kid who was running down the corridor at Newby School, and the teacher who had said something said, don't run, to which the kid started skipping. I love that little story. That kid probably went a long way in life. So that's your thought. Write that down, actually, everybody. Is it possible? I'm going to charge you with the task. Next time you go out and play, I want you to think on those putts, is it possible? But don't, I'm going to do a don't thing here. I don't want you to just apply this to your putting, because I've got a story now of a gentleman I used to teach at Hainsworth Park called Eric Godson. He was about 70-something years old at the time. And he came to me really struggling with his putting. He was missing putts of just a foot long. He had a condition we know as the yips. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but it's where you get this involuntary action and the subconscious brain is getting interfered with by the conscious brain. It's an awful thing. And he just couldn't hold a putt. And it was destroying him. He didn't want to play golf because of it. It was awful. So he came to me for a lesson. And I started chatting to him about his thoughts before he played. And no doubt his dominant thought before he had that putt was, oh, don't miss it again. Don't miss it. So we'd got him into this idea of a neutral mindset, started asking him, is it possible? And what happened was he'd gone away with it. And I'd say it was about a month later, he comes off the 18th green. And at Hainsworth Park, the practice putting green is right next to the 18th green. And I was on the practice putting green giving a lesson to another pupil, and Eric comes off the last green and he says, Peter, I hope you don't mind me just interrupting, but just a minute. I just want to give you some feedback on that lesson. It's been unbelievable what's happened as a transformation for my golf. And I said, Eric, great. Are you putting much better now? He went, it's not just my putting, Pete. What I did is the is it possible mindset really has helped my putting. It's transformed it. But I started doing it on my chip shots. Instead of just chipping willy-nilly onto the green and hoping for the best, I started asking myself that question. Is it possible I could chip this in? Because I didn't chip it in all the time, but my chip shots were miles better. So I started doing it on my full shots. The 16th hole at Haynes with that par 3 that I never before was hitting the green, and I'd get to that tee and be thinking, oh, I'm going to go in that bunker again, and be really negative. I started asking, is it possible I could hit this green? And then I upped it a level, he says. I started thinking, is it possible I could get a hole in one? He goes, it changed all my game. I started making freer swings. I've never played so good because of one simple change. So please write it down. The next time you go and play, folks, is it possible? It's going to make a huge difference to your game. So let's move on to the next slide. Hope you're all enjoying this, folks, as much as I am delivering this information to you. I'm sure you can tell just by the tonality of my voice, my movements, how passionate I am about sharing this stuff with you. I know if you digest this, and there's a lot of information to take in today. So if you've signed up for these lessons online, then you will get the PDF documents to accompany them. If you haven't yet, do head after this to junesgolfcentre.co.uk. You can still sign up after the event and you'll get on the list for me to send you out the information. So the next thing is about getting your game on track. And would this even be a proper presentation without an acronym thrown in there? Every webinar, seminar I've been on has to have an acronym somewhere, which is the reason I've put that in here. So what we've got is, what's the T stand for? This, by the way, is what we would call a pre-shot routine. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, of how having a good pre-shot routine allows you to sort of stay present. It allows you to just go and play no matter what your potential golf thermometer could be. If you're on a really good score, if you can come back to just going through your routine, it happens in all sorts of other things like helicopter pilots and stuff like that. People that are working in really high pressure situations deal with it because they are drilled in to a routine, a procedure that they stick to, and it just keeps things calm. So the T of track is target. Every shot must have a purpose. What is it we intend to do? Remember what we said about don't golf. This is where we would look at the target, look at the hazards. We need to know a bit of negativity. Where don't we want to be? But then we finish that. Okay, well, the play for me with my ability, the way this hole shapes up, is I want to place the ball there. The right-hand side of the fairway opens up the green as an example. So every shot must have a purpose. The R is for routine, your practice swings, your rehearsals, feeling the key swing ingredients to hit the shot that you've chosen. If you watched Chris's presentation last night, are you trying to hit a draw or a fade? I know for some of you, Pete, I'm just trying to hit the blooming ball. Yeah, well, it's whatever you've been figuring out on the range in practice is the key things for you to do that. It might just be as simple as just feeling your grip pressure. Yeah, just getting into that present state of feeling your body, because your body can't time travel unless you've got a DeLorean and a flux capacitor like Marty McFly. If you feel your body, if right now I ask you to pay attention to you touching your fingers together like this, your mind can't be in what happened yesterday or where it is tomorrow or what you've got to do on Monday morning. If you really get into this concept of focusing on something in the present moment, i.e. your body. So that could be part of your routine. Next thing is acceptance. Now, this is very much about missing the ions, playing do golf. This is where we can accept a negative outcome, and we can also accept a good outcome, like Eric Godson, who could accept that it's possible I could get a hole in one here. Yeah, we can accept the outcome no matter what it's going to be. And then finally, commitment. When you get over that shot and you're going to play it, you're going to commit to the shot you've chosen. I would reflect back on some of the bad shots I've played. We all play bad shots. It doesn't matter what level you're at, whether you are Tiger Woods, whether you're Rory McIlroy, or whether you're starting out in the game. If you've watched any golf on TV, you will see they all play bad shots. But a thing that I've learned about my own golf, if I go over a shot and I've got doubt in my mind and I'm double guessing, is it a 7-iron, is it an 8-iron, should I be playing this up into the wind or should I just let it ride on the wind? If I have this doubt as I'm swinging, more likely than not it ends in a bad shot. So we've got to choose a shot and we commit to it, and then afterwards we can then reflect back on whether that was the right decision or not and learn from it. So moving on from the track is a thing, and I've got to give credit here to, I'm just going to get rid of this banner that's going across the bottom. Sorry. So this is credit to Lynn Marriott of Vision 54, a concept that she worked on with Annika Sorenstam, and it's called the Think Box, Play Box. That actually in the image is the first hole at Hainsworth Park. I first started writing about this many years ago, so that's why it's that image that was still on there. And the idea is this, that we've got the track that I've just talked about. That kind of stuff happens, most of it, the target and the routine, in the think box. These are two imaginary boxes that you have before you play every shot. Little caveat for you here, folks. These concepts of the track and, you know, deciding what shot you're going to play before you play it don't take a long time. I don't want to be accused of causing the pace of play of golf to slow down considerably because, oh, that pro from Fraserburgh, Pete Myers, he told us we've got to do this and it takes 10 minutes per shot. No. I'm a fan of playing golf where we get on with it. I don't like these extended, protracted routines. I actually don't think it really helps because it just creates more indecision. The think box is where you're basically looking at the shot you're going to play, thinking about it, choosing the right club, but then, and when you cross, as you'll see in this next image a bit better, the decision line. Once you enter the play box, you've got to get on with it. That isn't the time to be messing about. We need you to be efficient when you're in the play box. Club behind the ball, look up, quick check on where you're aiming, and boom. Decide, commit, swing. It's really as simple as that. A good analogy for this would be skydiving. If you went skydiving, I've never done it. I'm not brave enough at the minute. Maybe one day. Emma has. She's done it. Said it was amazing. Any of you that have done it, hats off to you. You know, I think it must be quite an amazing, exhilarating experience. But if you go for a skydive, I would imagine that before you get in the plane is when you pack your rucksack full of your parachute, your spare parachute. You get briefed on where you're going to be flying over, what altitude you're jumping out at, and where your landing zone is. All that preparation is done before you get in the plane. And it's certainly done before you get tipped out of the plane. If you're flying down from 10,000 feet and you're thinking, oh, did I pack my parachute? Or you start packing it then, it's too blooming late. Yeah, you've got to do these things before you make the jump, because then when you jump, it's as simple as committing to it, counting down the thousands of feet, whatever it is, the format they do, and then boom, pull, parachute opens, safe landing. I remember explaining this to a pupil, and about a week or two later, a phone call message came through to one of my assistants who passed it on to me saying, please, can you tell Pete the parachute opened? Which I thought was fantastic. Anyway, on to the next slide. I want you to get into the habit of sending your mind on a vacation. Now, this picture, some of you will be familiar with the person. I've already mentioned her this evening. It's Annika Sorenstam, possibly the greatest female golfer of all time. And I think the only one, I could be wrong on this, but I think the only one to shoot a 59. She was certainly the first female golfer to shoot 59 in an LPGA Tour event. And what I really want to do is, and the reason I put this is I want to read out a chapter from one of my favorite books. And I don't know if you can see it because I know I'm only small on the screen here, but it's called Every Shot Must Have a Purpose by Pia Nilsson and Lynn Marriott. This is on the suggested reading list that you will be getting from me if you get the PDF. So I'm just going to read this out. So this is what happened the days after Annika had shot 59. Now, just to put some context into it, she shot 59 in the second round. So here we go. When Annika shot her 59 in the second round of the Standard Register Ping tournament in 2001, she was barraged with attention from the fans, the media, other players, and tournament and tour officials. By the time she got to the final round, between the demands and the excitement, she hadn't slept for 2 nights and was both exhausted and concerned that she would not be able to hold on to her lead. She very much did not want to devalue the 59 by not winning the tournament. Pia, and that's Pia Nilsson, who co-wrote the book, spoke with her the morning before the final round, and Annika said that she just did not have the energy to play a 5-hour round of competitive golf. She did not have the energy to play a 5-hour competitive round of golf. So Pia asked her, do you have the energy to play for 30 minutes? Annika said, yeah, that would not be a problem. So Pia pointed out to her that her pre-shot routine in the think box takes about 20 seconds and that she spends about 5 seconds in the play box. If she's going to play 70 shots that day, then she's spending only about half an hour actually playing golf. Pia told her not to think about being on the golf course for 5 hours, but rather to focus on the fact that she will only need about 30 minutes of actual playing times with breaks built in. Pia told her that what she needed was to send her mind on vacation between shots. Pia asked Annika what she could focus on between shots to make it more of a vacation and to conserve energy. Annika decided to focus on what she could cook the next week and how to decorate a room in her house. They were both pleasant places for her mind to go in between shots. Now, Annika did go on to win that, but there's some great value in that for you. And this next slide, I think, is quite fascinating. So as you can see, that it backs up the idea that we only play golf for about 30 minutes in a 4-hour round. This includes all your pre-shots. But let's look at those numbers of how long you actually influence the golf ball for. Each shot, the club is in contact for 0.0004 seconds. So if you take 80 shots in a round, you have influenced the ball for a total of 0.03 seconds. All those lessons, all that fancy equipment to influence the ball for just 0.03 seconds. I find that quite fascinating. Just amazing. So the next slide is this one. Now, this is really going to help you if you tend to go to pieces in a medal round. Now, the amazing power of a scorecard. Some of you will definitely be with me on this one, that it seems that when we just put that scorecard in our back pocket, everything changes. We don't play as well. We go to pieces. But is it really the extra weight of the scorecard? Is it, as on a lot of courses, when you're playing a medal, you play off the back tees? Is it that little bit of extra length? I don't think it is. I think it's something else. I think it's all about where your focus of attention is. So on to focus of attention. This is what I call a performance triangle. At the top, we've got performance, which is the shot outcome or score. In the bottom left, we've got learning. And in the bottom right, we've got enjoyment. Now, it doesn't matter whether we apply this to golf or anything in life. If this was you at school with a certain subject, you will have performed your best when you're right in the middle, where the green dot is, where you have equal amounts of learning, enjoyment, and a score to motivate you to keep getting better and to hold your interest. So what happens when we put that medal card in our back pocket and we enter the competition? Our focus shifts up to the top of the triangle, onto performance, on to score. And a lot of people, I hear them saying, well, you know, we move away from the enjoyment section, certainly, because people sort of go, well, if I score well, I will enjoy it. If I score well, I will enjoy it. Now, if you're one of those people that ever says that or thinks that, I'm going to ask you and plead with you to switch the equation round to, if I enjoy it, I will score well. So instead of it being, I will enjoy it if I score well, it's no, I will score well if I enjoy it. So it's a different approach, the same words, the same concept, but completely flipped on its head. So the other thing that happens as well is golf obviously is focused naturally on score. I don't find anybody really needs to focus on score. There might be some people who you know, if there's very little focus, and just thinking of my own experience, sometimes as a junior, we would go out and people we're playing with didn't want to play for money. They didn't want to keep score. In that instance, me and like my best mate, Simon Body, both of us quite competitive, would often in that situation not play as well because there was nothing on it. So there sometimes needs to be a little bit, which is why we need that triangle in equilibrium. We need to be in the middle of it. So what happens when normally happens is people get so focused on score. And proof of this is when you finish a round of golf, if you've got people who you know well. So an example for me would be playing junior golf. You finish a round, you've not been playing with your mate. The first thing we would ask is, what have you shot today? Yeah, there's never would we go up to someone and say, oh, what have you learned and enjoyed today, Simon? Yeah, it would be, what have you scored today? So naturally, we kind of playing around a golf and we're focused on the score. We're focused on the fact that when we finished a round of golf, we might be halfway through our round and we're already thinking about this handicap reduction. We're already thinking about winning the competition. We've not even finished the round of golf yet. I've got some more stuff on that, but I'll save that for another presentation, another day. So what I recommend you do is that you focus on things you can enjoy, stay present out on the golf course, and then after your round, reflect upon what it is that you've learned from that experience. And that brings me nicely onto this slide here. This is Johnny Miller. Now, Johnny Miller, as you can see, won the Open in 1976. He won the US Open in 1973. And he said, and if you can't read this, I will read it out to you. It says, I would have been a fool not to have been a good golfer. After every game of golf, my father asked me only 2 questions. What have you learned today, son? And what have you enjoyed? I think if you can get into the habit of doing that, it would change your game for the better. And I also, being honest, don't think it just applies to golf. I think certainly when it comes to raising your kids, if your kids come home from school, what have you learned today? What have you enjoyed? When they've come back from playing a sport, if they've played football, did you win? No. Let's ask them, what have they learned? What have they enjoyed? It's going to create far more stimulating conversation. It's going to know that the kid isn't being judged just on an outcome that they don't necessarily have any control over, but what they do have control over is their reflections on the experience of what have they learned, what have they enjoyed. It's a safe, really productive and constructive way of developing and nurturing talent in any field. So I'm going to just make a real life example of that for me, which was giving a lesson to a lady called Judy Page. Now, Judy was a really keen golfer, really wanted to reduce her handicap, but kept finding when she got in a competition, she would not fulfill her potential. Her handicap was creeping up and up and up because she just couldn't shoot the scores in a competition. She couldn't really shoot the scores playing on the golf course. She could hit the ball lovely in practice. She had lots of potential, but just couldn't put a score together. But we deduced from this kind of chatting with her that it was about where her focus of attention was. And then she said something to me one day about her. I asked her what her best ever experience was on a golf course. And there's a reason why I've put up this image. Some of you will know this is actually Wentworth. It's the West Course at Wentworth in Surrey. And I've put a little insert there of the typical house. This is actually a house from Virginia Water, which is the estate that Wentworth resides upon. And I've been very lucky in my childhood. We went to Wentworth every May to watch what was then the Volvo PGA Championship, a fantastic experience, not just to watch some of Europe's best golfers play, but because Wentworth as an area is just outstanding. The foliage, the trees, but in particular the houses and the gardens are unbelievable, as you can see from the picture. Now, the story about Judy was she'd gone to play there and she'd reported that this was her best game of golf because as she was playing around, she would get to a ball, hit it, and then just be in awe of these houses and the trees and the flowers that were in bloom. And then she would get to a ball and go, all right, I've got to hit a shot. What club is it? Boom, hit the shot, and then go back to just looking at nature. And there's a great lesson in that. There's been plenty of quotes in the past, and one of them's on our driving range that says, you know, as you go round, you must take the time to smell the flowers. Yeah, that's back to me talking about staying present, not getting ahead thinking about our score, not being angry because of the double bogey we've just taken. The only shot that's important is the one you're about to hit. So there's a good lesson for you. Now, the next task, and we are nearing the end, folks. I know I'm fast running out of time. I have a tendency to kind of go on and on and on. I really want to deliver you fantastic value. So I apologize if this runs just over the hour. It's only because I so want to deliver some great, real, tangible things that you can go on and implement in your game. So this next thing, anyone who's had lessons with me over the last 20 years will surely have come up, had me explain this to them. It's a 3-shot diary. Now, what we do with a 3-shot diary is this. As soon as, well, first of all, you need to buy a little notebook, preferably one that you can fit in the glove box of your car or even in your pocket in your golf bag. As soon as is possible, after you have played a round of golf, I want you to write down the date, and then in no particular order, but just think about and write down your 3 best shots that you hit that day. Now, what's important here is I don't want you to write down, as an example, right, my best shot today, 12 tee shot with a driver. It's not enough. What I want you to do, I want you to turn into an author, a novelist, and I want you to write it in a way that if someone was to pick up this diary in a few years' time, they could read what you've put and they could really find themselves experiencing it for themselves. So it goes something like this. I got to the 12th hole. I was playing with Simon. It was a beautiful day. There was a light breeze. It was about 20 degrees. We were just in t-shirts. You could smell the freshly cut grass that had just been mowed by the greenkeepers. It was a sweet summer's day. I pegged up my ball using my favorite golf ball and lined it up as I always do. I got my hands on the club and waggled it a couple of times whilst looking and just visualizing the shot I wanted to play. My takeaway felt smooth as I reached the top of my swing and transitioned into the downswing, and boom, the ball was struck so sweetly. There was no vibrations going through the club. It sailed off into the deep blue sky, and I tracked its flight as it landed plumb in the middle of the fairway. It's the longest drive, the furthest I've ever been down that hole before. It felt really good as I put the head cover back onto my driver, slid it back into my bag, put my clubs on my back, and strode off down the fairway to go and meet my golf ball. Now, I've just made that up. But I promise you, if you do this and you do it 3 times, this has some significant benefits to you. Because number one, when you're out there playing, it doesn't matter what's just happened. This next shot, the most important one, could be an entry in your 3-shot diary. It could be the best shot you've ever hit. You could be on a par 3. It could be your hole in one you've been waiting all your life for. I'm still waiting. The other thing it does is it's when you finish the round of golf. We know in any round of golf, there's going to be some bad shots happen. Yeah, there's going to be some bad shots happen. Now, a lot of people come off and for the purpose of improvement, they will focus on the bad stuff so that they can seek to improve. Nothing wrong with doing that. But the problem is when it becomes the sole focus and we don't give ourselves any credit. You know, success leads to success. We need to be given that confidence that we can do this. So when you finish the round of golf and you're going to write this down, it means that you're going to be reflecting upon the good stuff that happened. It's creating these positive affirmations that are going to serve you in the future. It's also going to make you come off. And I promise, some people say to me, yeah, but I'm playing that bad, Pete. There aren't any good shots. That's nonsense, because there are. And it's not what someone else thinks is a good shot. It's what you think. And it might be that it's just what other people might think is a simple chip shot. But if you've been struggling with that part of the game and you think, I need this in my diary to give me this affirmation that I can hit a good chip shot, then put that in there. This is for your own personal use. No one else is going to see it, but please write it as if they are going to see it. And the third way that this is hugely beneficial is that over time, you're going to build up this reference point of all your great shots. And I promise you, if you ever find your game in a slump, if you find yourself about to go and play a match that means something to you, that's really important, and you flick through this book before you play, you're going to be in a far better position mentally than if all your self-talk is, oh, I'm probably going to play rubbish today. I haven't played for a few weeks or months, and I'm just, oh, yeah, as opposed to, I actually can do this. Yeah, it's possible. I could go out and play a great round of golf today. So I hope you're all enjoying it. I know I'm over my time now, so I'm going to finish off with one thing to do. I know Simon Mins has just put, excellent, thank you. Well worth putting the Sunday roast on hold. It won't be on hold for much longer. This is your final task. Task number 6. Please, please stay with me on this one, because this, to me, is gold dust. Of all the tasks I've asked you to do, this is up there with my favorite. But you're going to think what I'm about to share with you that I have gone absolutely insane with this suggestion. So I want you to write down now your average scoring range for the last 12 months. What is it? Are you scoring between 90 and 100? Are you typically scoring 120 to 130? Are you typically scoring 60 to 70? Just jot that number down. Don't be too precise. Don't get out your stats. Just put down roughly where you think it is. What I then want you to do is take the higher number. So if it was 80, add 15 to it. So in that example, it would give you 95. Next one is the next time you play, you have to try and shoot that higher score, or worse, or you lose the game. I know I'm going to have lost a few of you there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it real and tell you about a real life example of me doing this with a pupil. And we're going back to Hainswood Park again. This time, it's with a chap called Lee Morris. Now, Lee was coming to me for a series of lessons. We'd made significant improvement to his technique, so improved his potential, but something was happening, causing his performance to dip. We know what it was. There was stacks of interference whenever he was playing in a competitive round of golf. So we played a lot of Staplefords at Hainswood Park in a thing called the Pro Sweep. And in those events, he'd scored in Stableford typically 24 to 26 points. So any of you that don't know about Stableford scoring, that was like 10 plus over his handicap. So he's playing more like a 25 handicapper, not the 15 handicapper that he actually was. And he wanted to improve. Now in the lessons, I'm like, Lee, look at your swing. Look how much better it is now to what it was 6 months ago. And he agreed. He goes, but it's just not happening, Pete. I said, right, I want you to do this for me. Are you up for a challenge? He went, Pete, I'll do anything. I says, are you sure? He went, yeah. I says, right, I want you to go out in the next Pro Sweep on Saturday, and you're not allowed to score more than 11 points. And what we're going to do, I'm going to bet you 20 quid. And he went, what are you on about? I says, hear me out. If you score 11 points or more in that event, I'm going to give you £20. Right? He goes, sounds a bit bizarre. I says, I know, but bear with me. I says, but if you score 12 points or more, you owe me 20 quid. He went, I don't get it. I says, just do it. He goes, are you up for it? He goes, yeah. So the Saturday comes. Oh, I forgot. There is one caveat. His playing partners can't say to him, Lee, are you doing this on purpose? In other words, he can't start tapping the ball around the hole. He can't start knocking it out of bounds on every hole. He has to look like he's still intending to play golf as it was designed to be, which is to shoot a low score. It's just in his head. He's not. That's the task. So anyway, let me explain what happens. So he comes in on the Saturday, pays his entry fee to me in the pro shop. I sign him in, give him his scorecard and just say, you still up for it, Lee? Still up for playing the game? He went, yeah. Off he goes out. 3.5 hours later, he comes down to the 18th green. Now, the pro shop was near the green. I walk out and I see him. He's put it off. He's walking off the green. He's grinning like a Cheshire cat, but he's shaking his head at the same time. I'm like, Lee, what happened? He goes in his back pocket. He pulls out a £20 note to give it to me. And he's laughing away. And he goes, Pete, I haven't done it. I says, what have you done? And he goes, 36 points I've done today. And I said, that's amazingly. Tell me about it. He goes, that's just half the story, Pete. He goes, I had 26 points after 9 holes. I said, 26 points after 9 holes? Well, tell me about it, Lee. He went, well, I'll tell you what happened. He goes, I set off. I remember what you said. And I decided just to go out and go for it. And I had no fear on any shot. The first tee, I've resorted to hitting an iron off in the past. I thought, sod it. I'm getting driver out. And I bombed it down the middle. I had about 40 yards left. Instead of hitting a cagey chip and run with a 7-iron, I got my lob wedge out, floated it up. It landed. It went to like less than a foot. I couldn't miss the putt. I started with a birdie. And he goes, this kind of went on and on and on all the way around or certainly all the way through the front 9. And he goes, I found myself, I get through 9 holes And Brian, who I'm playing with, said, hey, Lee, you're 2 under par gross here. You're 2 under par gross. He's on 15 handicap. I says, well, what happened? What happened on the back nine? He goes, well, I was on such a good score that I thought I better start trying. He thought he better start trying. Now, isn't that interesting? I would go as far as to say that trying is very trying. In other words, he'd played this game where the concept of the 15 shots worst game is if you are someone who gets riddled with fear and anxiety and tension before you play, think about that game. I still do it now. I'm a human being. I have the same thoughts as you. When I go and play, there's times where I find myself getting overly nervous about something. It could be a hole I don't like the look of. It can even be who I'm playing with. If I feel I want to impress them, if I teach them, I don't want them to think I'm a bad player. They can be enough things that get the tension going in my golf. And I remind myself, what would it be like if it didn't matter? What would it be like if I was playing that game where bad scores were good, where bad shots were good because they were helping me to play that game? It removes the shackles, the self-imposed shackles of performance that we get bound by. I've mentioned repeatedly this evening, tension, anxiety are not conducive to good golf. We need to be fairly free to be able to swing the club in the way that we do when we're just playing, let's say, a jolly or a practice round. Folks, I am very much aware of the time. I know some of you are going to have Sunday dinner to eat. We've still got our supper to have here. Emma and Billy have been waiting so patiently in the lounge for me to finish this broadcast. That's it from me this evening. I sincerely hope you've had great value from it. If you have, please like and share this video so I can reach more and more people. That's so important for me to know that we're doing that. We put some effort into these things. We've had so much positive feedback. We are going to do them again. Send me an email. What content would you like to see? Apologies if I've not been able to answer all of your questions. If you put them in the chat this evening, I've got in a bit of a flow state and was just going on. I know my dad did send me a message. Dad, I'll respond to you on that one privately. We don't have time this evening now. Like I said, give the video a like. There's a thing with Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, it does help our page, the algorithm, if you do like it and comment and interact with us. You don't have to, of course, I'm not forcing you, but it is really useful if you do. And on YouTube, if you've watched on YouTube, if you're watching this on replay, send us a comment. If you want the PDF sending to you, just get in touch with us and we'll get you that email sent out. If you are watching on YouTube as well, please hit the subscribe button. I've got less than 400 subscribers and we're going to continue to put out great content. I've set ourselves a goal. I want that over 1,000 by the end of this year, which we're going to do purely by putting out consistently and great content. Thank you very much, all of you. That's it from me. And with my typical sign off, which Billy commented on yesterday, I sign off every video with the 3 words, bye for now. He made a really funny little statement. He said, Dad, we're going to put that on your gravestone when you've died. It's